The sky over Earth had never looked like this before. Bright, shimmering shapes moved across the atmosphere, larger than any airplane, brighter than any satellite. People stopped in the streets, mouths open, as massive forms hovered silently above the clouds. They were dragons. Not the kind from stories, but enormous, majestic creatures with scales that shone like stars and wings that spanned miles. Their eyes glowed with intelligence, sorrow, and fear. In Washington, D.C., alarms blared in the government buildings as officials scrambled. Scientists pored over radar screens, trying to make sense of the impossible. "They're not attacking," Dr. Marlon Reyes said, voice shaking with awe. "They're begging." Outside, the dragon's leader descended slowly. His scales were dark gold, marked with streaks of silver that shimmered like sunlight on water. He landed in the middle of the National Mall, crushing trees beneath his massive claws, but moving carefully, as if aware of his own strength. People ran, some screaming, but others just stared, frozen. The dragon spoke, not in a roar, but in words clear and deep, reaching directly into the minds of everyone who listened. "Humans of Earth," he said, his voice echoing across the city, "we come with a plea. Our star, Solara, is dying. Our world will end. We have fought, we have tried, but no dragon alone can save it. Only you, only humanity, can stop the end." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Humans had always believed dragons were powerful, nearly immortal. Yet here they were, humbling themselves before humans, their voices trembling with desperation. In a small observatory in New Mexico, Captain Elias Ward, a former space pilot, watched the news feed. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it was a trick, but the images were real. "This can't be happening," he muttered. But deep down, he felt something awaken. Humanity had never faced anything like this before, and he felt the pull of the impossible. Dr. Reyes joined him. "Elias, they're not here to attack. They need us. And if their star dies, we might face consequences too. Solara is massive. If it collapses, the energy release could reach our system." Elias shook his head. "So what? Why us? We're just humans. We're small." Dr. Reyes smiled faintly. "Maybe that's exactly why they came to us. Small, fragile, clever. We can solve problems they cannot." Meanwhile, the dragons circled the sky in unison, forming shapes that made even military satellites pause. Their wings glinted in the sun, casting shadows across cities, oceans, and mountains. Messages began to appear in the sky, written in patterns of light only visible from above. They spelled out coordinates, instructions, and warnings. "Time is short," Therian's voice echoed in every mind tuned to listen. "Every hour counts. Every choice can save or destroy." Governments began to react. Fighter jets scrambled, not to attack, but to observe. Scientists and leaders held emergency meetings. Some believed it was a hoax. Others were terrified. Yet one thing was clear. The dragons were real, and they were desperate. In the chaos, Elias and Dr. Reyes made a decision. They would meet with the dragon leader. The others in the world debated, delayed, and hesitated. But Elias felt it in his bones. Hesitation here meant doom. He put on his flight suit, climbed into a jet, and followed the coordinates displayed by the dragons. The closer he flew, the larger Therian appeared. The dragon's eyes met his, and in that gaze was a depth of history and knowledge no human had ever seen. "You are the last hope," Therian said. "If you fail, our star dies, and with it our worlds." Elias swallowed. "And if we succeed?" he asked quietly. "Then life continues," Therian replied. "Your species will prove itself to the galaxy. You will show that small minds with courage can do what the mighty cannot." Elias felt a chill. Humans were being tested, not by nature, not by other species, but by creatures stronger, older, and wiser than any human mind could comprehend. And yet, they were pleading for help. Back on Earth, news cameras broadcast the meeting live. People watched as a human spoke to a dragon, negotiating the fate of a star. Social media exploded with disbelief, awe, and hope. Comments poured in. "Would you help a dragon?" "I would. Humans are about to do something incredible." This changes everything. Elias turned to Dr. Reyes. We have to do it, he said. We don't even know how, but we have to try. If they are asking, it means no one else can. That star, it's on our shoulders now. Dr. Reyes nodded, a mixture of fear and excitement in his eyes. Then let's show them what humans can do. And above them, Therion lowered his massive head, touching the ground gently, bowing before the species that had never been called upon to save an entire star before. For the first time, humans felt the weight of destiny, a call they could not ignore, a challenge unlike any other. The plea had been made. The choice was now human, and the galaxy was watching. The world did not act immediately. The dragon's plea hung in the air like a heavy storm. Governments called emergency meetings. Scientists argued. Military generals debated. Citizens watched from their windows, phones in hand, unsure whether to cheer or hide. Humanity had never faced a situation like this. Creatures older than the Earth itself, pleading for help with a star dying millions of miles away. In Washington, the situation was tense. President Hawthorne sat in a glass conference room, her hands gripping the edge of the table. We can't just trust them, she said. What if this is a trick? What if it's a test we can't survive? Dr. Marlon Reyes, the astrophysicist who first understood the dragon's message, shook his head. It's not a trick, he replied. Solara is collapsing. We have the science to see it. They need us, and if we refuse, billions of lives in their system will end. The energy release could even reach us. Reach us. General Carson's voice was harsh. Our planet? Are you saying their star could destroy Earth? Yes, Reyes said. It's possible. And even if it doesn't, we cannot ignore the moral responsibility. These creatures are asking for help. They are not our enemies. Outside the White House, crowds gathered. Some protested. Some prayed. Some were silent, staring at the dragons hovering in the sky. News reporters broadcast every moment, showing dragons' massive wingspans and glowing eyes. Humanity was in shock. The idea of helping another species with something beyond imagination was terrifying, and yet inspiring. Captain Elias Ward watched the chaos from a military command jet. He had volunteered to observe the dragons closely and act as a liaison if needed. Marlon, he said over the comms, people are scared. Even our leaders hesitate. How do you convince them that we are humanity, and this is our duty? Dr. Reyes paused. By reminding them of who we are. We are small, fragile, but creative. We survive where others fail. That's what makes us human. This is our chance to prove it on a scale no one has ever seen. But convincing the world was not easy. Each country debated. Some wanted to exploit the dragon's technology for power. Others feared war or environmental disaster. A council of nations argued over budgets, resources, and risks. Every hour lost made Solara's situation worse. Meanwhile, the dragons were not idle. They circled above the planet, showing signs of frustration. Some younger dragons roared, shaking the atmosphere, warning humans of urgency. Therion, their leader, remained calm but firm. His golden eyes scanned the planet, looking for a human leader willing to step forward. On the streets, people whispered, "Why us? We are small. They are dragons. They should fix their own star." But others shouted encouragement. "We can do this. Humans are clever." The world was divided, unsure whether to hope or fear. Elias realized that hesitation itself was dangerous. "If we wait too long," he said to Dr. Reyes, "there might not be time to act. These dragons are showing us their trust, and they can't survive without our help." Reyes nodded. "Exactly. The world doesn't understand yet, but the first step is to show leadership. Someone has to volunteer. Someone has to say yes before others can follow." The first volunteer was a small research team led by Dr. Reyes. They presented a plan, studied the dragon biology and Solara's energy output. They could not promise success, but they could begin work immediately. Slowly, others joined: engineers, scientists, space pilots. Military support was limited, but essential to provide safety and logistics. Even with a team, there was doubt. Could humans really manipulate a star? Could fragile humans survive where dragons could not? Could small minds solve a problem that had defeated mighty creatures? The dragons sensed the hesitation. Therion lowered his massive head toward the team. "Time is running out," he said. "You are our last hope. The longer you wait, the fewer options remain. The fate of our people is in your hands. Show us what humans can do." Elias felt the weight of the words. Humans had never been called upon to save a star. They had fought wars, built cities, explored space, but this was beyond imagination. "We can do it," he said softly to Dr. Reyes. "We have to. There is no other choice." Dr. Reyes studied the dragon. "They are relying on us. Not force, not power, but our brains, our courage. If we fail, it's not just their world that ends. We fail as humans, too." Slowly, governments began to act. Emergency committees were formed. Resources were mobilized. Communication satellites were redirected. Space stations were prepared to assist. The hesitation did not vanish, but a spark of determination began to spread. Across the planet, people watched as humans and dragons began a conversation that no one had thought possible. Scientific teams worked with dragons, learning what they could. Pilots trained for missions near the sun. Engineers built models for star stabilization. Every small step was a challenge, but humanity began to rise to it. And in the center of it all, Elias looked up at Therion. The dragon's massive form loomed over him, a reminder of the stakes. "We will not fail," Elias said. "We are humans. We will find a way." Therion's golden eyes glimmered with hope. For the first time, he believed that humanity, fragile and small, might succeed where even dragons could not. Above them, Solara flickered, a dying star in need of heroes. And the humans were stepping forward. The world was changing. What had started as fear and hesitation was now turning into action. Humans were working together in ways no one had imagined. Scientists, engineers, and pilots formed teams alongside the dragons. They shared knowledge, combining dragon materials and human technology to create something new, something that could save Solara. Captain Elias Ward led a team to the dragon's landing zone. He stood on a platform, staring at the enormous creature before him. Therion's golden scales shone in the sunlight, and his eyes reflected both worry and hope. "We need to act fast," Elias said. "What exactly do you need us to do?" Therion lowered his head, touching the platform lightly with his massive snout. "Our science is old. Our knowledge is instinct, magic, and experience, but we cannot stabilize a star. Humans understand physics, energy, and matter. You can build the device, we cannot. We will provide the materials, but the design must come from you." Elias turned to Dr. Marlon Reyes, who had begun studying the dragon crystals, rare elements that shimmered like liquid light. "Marlon, can we do this?" he asked. Dr. Reyes examined the glowing minerals, his eyes wide with excitement. "Yes, if we combine them with human tech, we can create a stabilizer strong enough to control the star's energy. But it will be dangerous. One mistake, and it could explode, destroying the dragon system, or worse, affecting us too." Elias nodded. "We don't have a choice. Let's get to work." In massive labs, humans and dragons worked side by side. Engineers built energy conduits, while dragons provided materials that no human machine could replicate. Pilots tested delivery drones capable of traveling into the star's corona. Scientists calculated energy output, pressure, and stability, working for hours without sleep. Every day brought new challenges. Some humans doubted themselves. "We're small," one engineer whispered. "What if we fail?" Elias overheard and shook his head. "We've survived worse. The dragons need us because we can think differently. We can solve problems they can't. That's our strength." Therion watched from above, sometimes circling the lab, sometimes observing the humans' progress with pride. For the first time, dragons saw humans not as weak or fragile, but as capable, intelligent, and brave. The partnership was growing stronger. Weeks passed, and the plan began to take shape. The stellar stabilizer, A massive device of human engineering and dragon materials stood in a high orbit station near the sun. Its design was complex. Humans had to manipulate quantum fields and harness nuclear energy, while dragons infused it with rare crystals that could withstand the star's heat. As the device was prepared for launch, tension grew. Solara's flares were getting stronger, unpredictable. The energy waves could reach neighboring planets at any moment. Time was slipping away. The human crew for the mission was chosen carefully. Elias would pilot the stabilizer, assisted by engineers and scientists. They trained for hours, simulating the extreme heat and radiation they would face. Dragons hovered nearby, practicing aerial maneuvers to guide them if something went wrong. Some dragons were still skeptical. A younger dragon, silver-scaled and restless, spoke to Therion. Humans are fragile. They cannot survive in the corona. What if they fail? Therion's golden eyes narrowed. They will succeed because they are humans. They see solutions where others see limits. Trust them. Finally, the launch day came. Humans and dragons watched together. The stabilizer floated above Earth, glowing faintly, ready to travel into Solara. Elias' team climbed aboard the command pod. He looked out the window at the dragons circling below. "We won't fail," he said quietly. "We're humans. We solve the impossible." The dragons roared in a gesture of encouragement, shaking the atmosphere. Their voices carried across the lab, a sound of hope and power combined. As the stabilizer entered space, humans controlled every movement with precision. The path to the star was dangerous. Radiation, heat, and gravitational pull threatened to destroy the pod. But humans adapted. They calculated trajectories, adjusted shields, and corrected every anomaly. Dragons observed, impressed by the humans' courage and quick thinking. Inside the pod, Elias felt the tension like fire in his chest. He looked at the instruments. The energy readings were unstable. "We need more power," he said. "The dragon's crystals, they're the only way to stabilize the core." Dr. Reyes, working alongside him, nodded. "I'll release them. Be ready for the surge." The crystals glowed as they were activated. Energy flowed through the stabilizer, responding to human calculations and dragon material. The star flickered violently, then began to calm. The device absorbed, distributed, and controlled the energy, slowing the star's collapse. Outside, dragons circled the sun, roaring in approval. Therion's voice reached the human crew. "You are succeeding. You are proving that humanity can do what even dragons could not." The crew smiled faintly, exhausted but determined. For the first time, humans and dragons worked together in perfect harmony, each complementing the other's strengths. Elias looked out at the stabilizer, glowing against the star's corona. "We're doing it," he whispered. "We're saving their star. We're showing what humans can do." The dragons watched in awe as humans, small and fragile by comparison, controlled forces beyond imagination. For the first time, dragons understood the meaning of human courage and intelligence. They had begged for help, and humans had delivered. The first step was complete. The stabilizer was functioning, but more challenges lay ahead. Humanity had proven itself capable. The galaxy had just begun to see the potential of this species. Above them, Solara shone a little brighter, a dying star given hope by human ingenuity. And for the first time, humans realized they were not just small observers of the universe, they could shape it. The stabilizer was in place, floating near Solara's corona, glowing with a mixture of human technology and dragon crystal energy. Everything had been calculated, measured, and tested, or as much as humans could prepare for something this dangerous. Yet one fact remained. No one had ever ventured this close to a dying star. The heat, radiation, and gravitational force were enough to destroy any living being instantly. Captain Elias Ward tightened his harness inside the command pod. His hands gripped the controls, fingers white with tension. Dr. Marlon Reyes sat beside him, monitoring energy flows and shielding levels. Both knew what was at stake. If they failed, Solara would collapse, dragons would die, and the humans who helped them might be destroyed along with it. Outside the pod, dragons circled in anxious silence. Therian lowered his massive head close to the pod's viewport. "This is the final step," he said. "Humans, you must enter the heart of the star to activate the stabilizer fully. Only by placing it in the corona can the energy flows be balanced. Your courage will decide the fate of a system." Elias swallowed hard. "We're ready," he said, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. Humans had prepared for this mission, but fear did not vanish. It sharpened their focus instead. As the pod approached the corona, the temperature soared. Outside the viewports, flames of plasma swirled violently, reaching millions of degrees. Gravity tugged at the pod as if trying to crush it into the star. Sensors screamed warnings. Every calculation had to be exact. One small mistake, one delay, and they would be gone forever. "Steady," Elias said, taking a deep breath. "We've got this." Dr. Reyes adjusted the energy conduits. "The crystals are stable. Just follow the trajectory I calculated. Don't deviate." The pod entered the corona. Flames licked the hull, shielding barely holding against the radiation. Sensors flickered as the intense energy threatened to overload the systems. Elias' hands moved with precision, piloting the pod into the exact location where the stabilizer needed to be anchored. Suddenly, an unpredictable flare erupted from Solara, hotter and faster than any prediction. The pod rocked violently. Sparks flew inside, alarms blared. "We're too close," shouted one of the engineers over the comms. Elias gritted his teeth. "We don't have a choice. Hold on. We're going through it." Outside, dragons roared, their massive wings cutting through the plasma storms. Some tried to shield the pod, but even their strength was limited against the star's power. Therian watched, silent but tense. He had seen countless disasters in his long life, but nothing like this. Inside the pod, Marlin shouted over the noise. "The energy is fluctuating. The stabilizer won't activate unless we manually adjust the conduits." Elias nodded. "I'll do it. Marlin, guide me." The two worked in perfect unison. Fingers flew across controls, adjustments made in seconds that could not afford a single error. The pod shook violently, and Elias felt heat pressing against the walls like a physical force. Still, he did not falter. Humans were small, but their determination burned brighter than the star itself. Then came the critical moment. The stabilizer needed a direct energy link with a dragon crystal. No human could carry it close enough alone. Therian stepped forward. With a roar that shook space itself, he released his own life force into a protective field around the pod, shielding the humans as they placed the crystal. The golden energy flowed around the stabilizer, harmonizing with human calculations. The pod trembled violently. Elias felt the heat pressing on him like 1,000 suns. "Almost there," he gasped. "Keep it steady." With a final adjustment, the stabilizer anchored itself in Solara's corona. Energy flows balanced. The star's violent flare slowed. Plasma storms calmed. For the first time in centuries, Solara pulsed steadily instead of erratically. Elias slumped in the pod, exhausted but alive. Dr. Reyes breathed heavily, smiling through the fear. "We did it," he whispered. Outside, the dragons roared in triumph. Therian lowered his massive head toward the pod, golden eyes glimmering. "You have done what no dragon could," he said. "You have saved Solara. You have proven the strength, intelligence, and courage of your species." Elias looked out the viewport. The star, once unstable and deadly, now shone with a steady, gentle light. Small as humans were, their brains, courage, and unity had achieved the impossible. The dragons, though mighty, had relied on humans' ingenuity. Some dragons approached the pod, brushing against its hull in gestures of respect. Therian spoke again. "You have earned our trust, our admiration, and our eternal gratitude. Humans, you are now part of this star system's history." As the crew prepared to return, Elias realized something profound. Dragons were powerful, larger than life, and nearly immortal. Yet they had needed humanity. The galaxy had not seen such collaboration before, creatures mighty in body, humans mighty in mind. Together, they had done what neither could alone. The pod returned to orbit safely. Elias unbuckled his harness and looked at Marlin. "We actually did it," he said, voice trembling. "We saved a star." Dr. Reyes nodded. "We did. And the dragons now know what humans can do. Not because we are strong, but because we are clever, determined, and brave. That is the true power." Above them, Therian and his fleet circled in silent salute. Humanity had not only saved a star, they had earned respect across the galaxy. The sacrifice, the fear, the risk, it had all been worth it. For the first time, humans realized they were more than fragile creatures on a small planet. They were a species capable of changing the course of entire star systems. And so Lara, once on the brink of death, now shone with the light of hope, powered by courage, intelligence, and unity. So Lara shone steadily now, a bright, calm star where chaos had once reigned. From Earth, people watched the news in disbelief. The impossible had happened. Humans had saved a star. The dragons, once desperate and fearful, circled the planet in gratitude and awe. Humanity had proven its worth in a galaxy that had long underestimated it. Captain Elias Ward stepped out of the command pod onto the observation deck of the orbital station. His face was blackened with soot from the corona. His hands shook from adrenaline, but his eyes shone with pride. Dr. Marlin Reyes joined him, carrying the last data logs from the stabilizer mission. "We did it," Elias said quietly. "We actually did it." Marlin nodded, looking out at the dragons hovering above. "Not just us," he said. "Everyone who worked on this. Humanity showed what we can do when we work together, when we don't give up. We're small, fragile, but we're clever. That's our real strength." Therian descended from the sky, landing with a gentle grace that belied his enormous size. His golden scales glimmered in the sunlight, and his eyes glowed with emotion. "Humans," he said, his voice deep and steady, "you have done what no dragon could. You have saved Solara, preserved my people, and earned a place in the history of our star system." Elias bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect toward a creature far larger and older than himself. Therian lowered his massive head in return, a silent acknowledgement that dragons had never shown to any species before. Humanity had not only succeeded, they had been honored for it. On Earth, celebrations erupted. Governments finally understood the magnitude of the achievement. People poured into streets, cheering, crying, and hugging each other. Social media exploded with messages. "Humans saved a star. We are more capable than we ever believed." This changes everything. But for Elias and his team, the mission success was bittersweet. The stabilizer had worked, but the journey had pushed them to their limits. Radiation exposure, extreme heat, and the emotional weight of nearly certain death had left its mark. Some of the crew were recovering in medical units, exhausted but alive. Elias knew that each of them had made a personal sacrifice that would never be forgotten. Therian approached the humans gathered on the observation deck. "You risked your lives," he said. "You faced what we dragons could not. Your courage, intelligence, and perseverance have saved countless lives. You have proven that humans are worthy of trust, respect, and admiration." A younger dragon, silver-scaled and eager, spoke softly. "I used to think dragons were the strongest beings in the galaxy. But now I see humans are different. They are small, fragile, yet they can change the fate of worlds. That is a power unlike any other." Elias felt a swell of pride. Humanity had always relied on strength, weapons, and numbers. But here, intelligence, problem-solving, and courage had made the difference. This was HFY at its finest. Humans, underestimated and small, achieving greatness through their unique traits. Therian continued, addressing both dragons and humans. "We will tell stories of this day for generations. The dragons will remember how humans saved Solara, and humans will carry the knowledge that their species can shape the universe." Marlin smiled faintly, looking at Elias. "We've done something bigger than any invention, bigger than any exploration. We've proven that intelligence, courage, and unity can defeat even the greatest odds." Elias nodded. And there's more to do. This was just the beginning. Solara is stable, but the galaxy is vast. There will be challenges that test humanity again. But if we face this, we can face anything. Above them, the dragons roared in a synchronized, celebratory cry. It was not a sound of fear or threat, but of respect, joy, and gratitude. For the first time, dragons and humans truly understood each other. One species relied on strength, another on intellect, and together they had achieved the impossible. As celebrations continued, Varian turned to Elias one last time. You have saved more than a star. You have saved our pride, our people, and, in a way, yourselves. Remember this. Power is not only measured in size or fire. It is measured in courage, wisdom, and the will to act. Elias watched as the dragons returned to their fleet, circling the star one final time before setting off toward distant systems. Humans had earned not only their respect, but also a lasting legacy. Solara would shine for generations, a testament to the day humans dared to face the impossible. Back on Earth, people looked up at the night sky. Solara's light burned steady and bright, visible even across the vast distances of space. Children pointed, dreaming of adventures beyond their world. Scientists and engineers began new projects inspired by what had been achieved. Humanity had stepped into a new era. And in the quiet of the orbital station, Elias whispered to himself, looking at the star they had saved, "We are small, yes, but together, we are unstoppable." The dragons had begged, humanity had answered, and the galaxy would never forget it.